This is another translations tutorial for Joomla users, and in the first tutorial we covered how to install languages, which is very simple. Just go to extensions, languages, and then install the language. Then that language becomes available in both the languages for the system, so you can log in that language and use the system in that language if you want to, and also the content languages. And we added Russian in the last tutorial. What we're going to cover now is how to make the language display. If you look at the website, you'll see we have English and Spanish, but in the back end we have English, Spanish and Russian. So clearly we need to do something to make Russian display. And the best way of doing this is to create a new menu. Now, there are translations managers available on the market. We do use them on some websites, but we get mixed results. With this system, you're in complete control of what's translated and how it's displayed. So the first thing we need to do is create a new menu. So we go to the menus and we click Manage. And I'm just going to copy this. Copy, and I'm going to create a new menu. Paste that, and then just change English to Russian, and then I'm going to copy that again and just paste it in there and there, and you'll see it's not an administrator menu, it's a site menu, the main menu. Save and close. So now that menu is available, and we just need to create a menu item. And you'll notice if we go to the English menu, for example, we have the home menu item, which is the default. You'll see there it has the English flag. And if we go to the Spanish menu, we'll see we have Inicio, and that has the Spanish flag because that's the default menu item for that language. But you'll notice the Russian menu doesn't have a flag because we don't have an item on that menu item, and a home menu item rather. So the first thing I need to do is create a menu item, or I can just copy another one, which is my preferred method. It makes life easier. So if I go to the English menu and click Home, I can then copy this. So I'm going to copy that, and you'll see that it's changed the name. So we're going to change that to what I think is the Russian translation. And as I always recommend, if somebody is wanting a website in, for example, Russian, I can translate into Russian using Google Translate or any other system. However, somebody whose first language is Russian should always check that translation. We can provide translations in multiple languages by native speakers as well. So I've changed the name. I'm going to leave it as featured articles, the menu type, but I'm going to switch the menu from English to Russian. And if I scroll down, you'll see here the language is set to English, so I'm going to set that to Russian. And it's published as well. Click Save and Close. So now, if I go to the Russian menu, we'll see that that's there in Russian. And I'm going to set that as the default menu item for the Russian menu. And when I hover back over menus, you'll see that both English and Russian and also Spanish have their respective flags. So that means that we have a default menu item in that language. So when somebody picks that language on the website, an item displays in that language. And if I go to the website now, I'll just refresh. And we scroll down, and we'll see now we have the English, we have the Spanish, and also the Russian flags. And the reason why is because we created the menu item. So if I click Russian, of course there's no content translated into Russian, but it's there, it's available for us, and now we can start translating content, and that's the third phase, that's the next thing we're going to go on to. So just to recap very briefly, we went into the administration area in the first tutorial, and we installed languages. So we installed the Russian language, and then we made it available in content languages as well. We simply turned it on, and you'll see the ordering of the languages here reflects the ordering of the flags on the website, so we can drag these around and move them around to make them in different orders if we want to. And then the second thing we did was we created a menu in that language, and then once we'd created the menu, we created a menu item, and then we set that menu item as the default. That's it. I mean, if I turn this off now, so we don't have a default menu item in Russian, and I go back to the website and refresh, the Russian language flag disappears. So if I go back and I set that as default, go back to the website, refresh, the Russian flag appears. So if I click Spanish, you'll see that all the content has been translated into Spanish on that home page. Of course, not all the menu items are translated, but we're going to cover those in the next tutorial. And if we go to English, you'll see we have all the menu items available in English.